Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new to this channel, my name is Frank Zhu and I'm a college professor teaching sociology, history and philosophy. I'm also an award-winning landscape photographer. If you live here in the United States, you know that Thanksgiving holiday is just around the corner. But do you know who started the holiday tradition? Why is it called Thanksgiving? Giving thanks to whom? Why is it on a Thursday? What celebrations are there? As a professor of history, I feel obliged to make a video to answer those questions. So, I'm here today talking with you about the origins of Thanksgiving holiday, how it became a national holiday, what do we do on Thanksgiving, and finally, I will be talking about the recent controversies around Thanksgiving holiday. Hopefully, this video will be helpful to those of you who are interested in American history, or those of you who live abroad but want to learn about the American history and traditions. Thanksgiving tradition began with the first English settlers in America. Please note that I used the word settlers, by which I refer to those people from England who came to settle down in America, not the so-called explorers or pioneers. So let me go back a little bit further in history. We know that Columbus, who was representing the Spanish monarch, first arrived in the New World in 1492. Only 5 years later, in 1497, the first English person by the name John Cabot came to North America. Not the United States per se, but in Newfoundland, Canada. Cabot was an explorer, not a settler. And he was actually not English, but Italian. But he was living in England and was sponsored by the English king Henry VII. As an explorer, Cabot was searching for a new route to Asia by sailing west and landed in modern-day Newfoundland and claimed it for England. After that, a few other English navigators also came in exploration, not as settlers. It was not until a century later that the English started making any serious efforts to establish colonies in America. However, unlike the Spanish, who were more interested in seeking profits than settling in the New World, the English people came to settle down, which is why I emphasized the word settlers earlier. Some of those settlers were escaping religious persecution back in Europe, and some came for economic opportunities. The first group of English settlers arrived in what is modern-day Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. Jamestown, which was named after the English King James I, thus became the first permanent settlement by the English. That's why when we talk about American history, we often start with Jamestown. However, our story about Thanksgiving started with the second group of English settlers. In September 1620, a group of 102 pilgrims got on board a small ship called the Mayflower in Plymouth, England, and set sail to this side of the Atlantic Ocean. By the way, Pilgrims were a group of religious people who wanted to separate from the Church of England. They felt that they were persecuted at home and were looking for a new home in the New World to practice their religion freely. Their intended destination was the mouth of the Hudson River. However, as a result of strong winds, they finally ended up in modern-day Plymouth, Massachusetts, after a long journey of over 2 months on the sea. Now, please note that Plymouth in Massachusetts was, of course, named after the English port Plymouth because the Pilgrims had set sail from there. Many of those people were educated people, and they knew in front of them was a completely new life. So they needed a kind of organization to regulate the new community. So they held a meeting and signed an agreement on board before they put their feet on land. The document established a governing body and decided on the way of electing a governor. This agreement became known as the Mayflower Compact, and it has been considered as the first American Constitution. Now, please keep in mind that they arrived in winter, and we know that wintertime in Massachusetts is very harsh. But the Pilgrims never expected the harshness. Besides, those people had little experience living in such conditions, and they had few skills of surviving a hard time. Throughout that first brutal winter, most of the new settlers remained on board the ship, where they suffered from cold and diseases and lack of food. Only half of the Mayflower's original passengers and crew lived to see their first New England spring. In March, the remaining settlers moved ashore, where they received a surprising visit from a group of Native Americans. Those Native Americans taught the Pilgrims, who had been weakened by malnutrition and illness, how to cultivate corn, catch fish in the rivers, and avoid poisonous plants. In November 1621, after the Pilgrims' first corn harvest proved successful, Governor William Bradford organized a celebratory feast. In their view, it was a god who helped them survive the brutal winter. They wanted to take the opportunity to thank God. That was the first Thanksgiving ever in America. After that, other colonies also started their Thanksgiving festivals, and they did so on quite regular basis. In 1789, President Washington issued an order designating a day in November for Thanksgiving across the nation. He called upon Americans to express their gratitude for the victory of the Independence War. After that, a few other presidents also designated a particular day as Thanksgiving Day. However, it was not until the presidency of Abraham Lincoln that Thanksgiving became a national holiday. In 1863, at the peak of the Civil War, he issued a proclamation according to which the Thanksgiving Day would be the final Thursday in November. Since then, it was celebrated on that day every year until 1939, when President Franklin D. Roosevelt moved the Thanksgiving to the third Thursday in an attempt to create more shopping days during the Great Depression. However, his plan was met with a strong opposition. In 1941, Congress passed a new law making the fourth Thursday in November a permanent day for Thanksgiving. Now, please note that it is the fourth Thursday, not the final Thursday, in November, because in some years there are 5 Thursdays in November. Nowadays, the Americans celebrate Thanksgiving every year. However, for many Americans, the Thanksgiving celebration has lost much of its original religious significance. Instead, it is now a time for family members to get together to celebrate and strengthen bonds and create memories. It is a time to express gratitude for the presence of loved ones. The holiday now centers on cooking and sharing a big and delicious meal. For many American families, turkey is a must on their dinner table. There are all kinds of activities as well, including parades in major American cities, the most famous of which is perhaps the Macy's Parade, which takes place in New York City. As the largest Thanksgiving celebration, the Macy's Parade is sponsored by the department store Macy's, which claims that it is the biggest department store in the world. As a beloved tradition, the Macy's Parade, which started in 1924, nowadays draws millions of people in person. I can tell you it is an amazing experience because I participated in it for a few years. But the holiday is not without controversies. Many Americans, and especially the Native Americans, feel that the Pilgrims should have expressed their gratitude for the Native Americans who helped them. They also believe that Thanksgiving celebrations cover up the true history of oppression and bloodshed which the Native Americans experienced. Well, that is all for today. If you found this video informative and helpful, and you like it, please give me a thumb up. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.